You did your master's for $0 plus you have more money. Thank you, Aditya, for doing this. Really means a lot to me. I know we talked about your visa story in the previous video, but this one we're going to talk about how you got fully funded master's education. And it's not that you got it before you came to United States, you actually fought for it after you landed in United States. So very
Yeah.
excited to hear more about that, but thank you for doing this. And before we get started, let's do a quick intro, like where are you from, what do you do, where are you right now, and the fun stuff about you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And hi, I'm Aditya Shah. I'm currently pursuing my master's in computer science from Virginia Tech, and right now I'm in my final semester. So yeah, I'm originally from Mumbai.
So, virginiatech, you're doing masters in computer science. This is your last semester, correct?
Yeah.
What's the total fees for virginiatech?
So I think we have to take about 30 credits, and it's like 1,500 per credit. So it comes out to roughly 17,000 per semester. And then in final semester, you have a reduced course load, so you just have to pay like 4 or 5K for um, 3 credits.
So, and that's 4 semesters.
Yeah, it's 4 semesters. So
So
on
17,
Virginia Tech,
17, 17. That's 51, and
yes,
then roughly 5,000, so
5K, yes.
56,000 or so.
Yeah, 55, 56. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's very expensive. And that does
Yeah.
not include cost of living, correct?
Yeah. It doesn't include cost of living, but I think Blacksburg is relatively cheap compared to other cities. So I
Okay,
think you can
what is then?
comfortably live here.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah.
into what is the cost of living at Virginia Tech.
Yeah. So I think for rent, it should be somewhere around 400 to 600. You can easily find a
Mm,
room in that range. And then your usual cost of living comes out to like 300 to 200 300 for utilities and stuff per month. So I think you can comfortably go ahead with around 800 900, and it's easy under 1,000 per month.
400 to 600 rent. Is it personal or personal room, or is it sharing the
Yeah,
bedroom?
personal, it's like
Oh,
personal
that's
room and
very nice.
shared bath.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, of course. Yeah. That's awesome. That is, yeah, that's not too bad. So that's good because I've heard stories of people paying like, $800 and still sharing
I
like
know.
bedroom with like three people. So this
Yeah,
is good to have that luxury.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the monthly expense here would be equal to rent in New York.
Right, for sure.
So it's
Let's talk about the funding story. You didn't come with funding, so how did you approach to get the funding? Like, how did you think about it? Where did you get the knowledge that you can get fully funded?
So my program in Virginia Tech, there are two programs. One is MNGCS, which is like non-thesis based. So it's
Mm,
just coursework based masters, and another is MSCS thesis, or they call it MS and MNG. So MNG is for non-thesis, and MS is for thesis based. So you're
okay,
supposed to do a research and write a thesis at the end of your graduation.
okay.
So since Virginia Tech is a research university, they do provide funding for MS students, but it's getting competitive.
Mm,
So in my case, when I had gotten an MS program, they didn't have funding, and I think a lot of MS students didn't get funding because of the COVID and pandemic situations. Universities didn't
right,
have enough funds at that
right.
time, so a lot of students came here and they had to just carry on with the program and try to find fundings, reaching out to professors for research positions.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, when I came here, I reached out to, like, I started, like, initially you just start writing cold emails to different professors saying,
Mm,
I want to work with your lab and I'm interested in your research and so. But it's very difficult to get a response from the professors if you just simply cold email. That's what I
mm,
personally experienced. And I
mm,
had a really good research background. I had worked at IIT Bombay and IIT Indore, and I had 4 research papers. So my
mm,
experience and background was relatively it was much aligned and much better for an ML based position.
mm,
So what I noticed is that a lot of professors here are very, very busy with their work, so they usually don't get time to go through every student's profile.
mm,
So cold emailing here might not be the right approach. So instead, what I felt was the most useful is, instead of directly reaching out to professors, you reach out to the PhD students, the senior PhD students who are working with the professor in his or her lab, and then
mm,
you talk to them that you are interested in professor's work. So that's what I personally did. I was interested in a research lab, so I reached out to the student. I reached out to the professor first, but because I didn't receive any response, I was like, I need to do something different here
Right, right.
because I wanted funding in the first semester itself by anyhow. So then I was like, we'll have to do something different here. This won't
Yeah,
work.
right.
So then I reached out to the senior PhD student. I talked with him and he saw my profile, and my experience was very, very relevant to the work they were
Mm,
doing. So
mm,
then he kind of vouched for my abilities and he spoke for me with the
mm.
professor that a student came to me and his profile is very good. So would you like to meet him? So that's how, because of his help and because of him vouching for my abilities, I could talk to the professor. So
Mm,
then the next day, professor called me and we had a
yeah.
meeting and we
Wait,
discussed
wait,
some
wait.
ideas.
Right, before we get to the meeting part, I have two questions which I think I want to dig deeper. One, you landed in United States. You obviously got your semester started. You're taking classes. How do you know
Yeah.
which professor has the funding, and how do you know which professor is doing research? Like, what's the way to find that out?
So what I did in my case was I kind of shortlisted the professors whom I know I have worked, like if I have a similar background and I've worked in similar areas, so I kind of shortlisted those professors,
So,
and
how
then I
did you
started.
shortlist? Like, how did you find the list of professor to shortlist it?
So that usually I go through the university's website.
Okay,
You can
okay.
get details of faculties based on their areas of research and areas of
Mm,
expertise. So in
mm,
my
okay.
case, it was mostly machine learning and NLP. So I kind of shortlisted professors, and then usually many professors maintain a website in
Mm,
their homepage, and they have a recent announcement section. So a lot of
mm,
professors, when they get funding, they like to list it and kind of advertise about that. Like, look, I have funding. I'm looking for
right,
students.
right.
So that's how I shortlisted professors. So this
Mm,
professor had
that
listed it, and it was right on the top that we got funded by NSF. And I was like, yeah, this looks like a good
okay,
opportunity
yeah.
for me.
See that this is the key information. This is where
Yes,
people
yes.
need to go through it
Yes,
and
you
like
can't blindly apply. You need to have a strategy for everything. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
right, right.
So, like, one more thing I've realized, like in US particularly, a lot of things work based on trust. So, if a professor
Mm,
is giving you funding, if he's willing to give you funding, he needs to trust your abilities, your skill sets, and that you'll be able to deliver.
yeah,
Now, if I'm a new student, I haven't worked with the professor. How will he trust me with the funding? So the
right.
best way is when I reach out to someone whom he trusts, like his PhD student,
Yeah,
and when he
yeah.
vouches for my ability, that's when I can connect the bridge.
Nice. Okay,
So
so then the
that's
follow-up
how.
question is, obviously you found out this is the professor, he has the funding. You're like, okay, here's my guy, and then you reached out or girl, you reached out to them, and then now, I mean, you try to cold email him, but you're not getting any response, so you have to figure out a different way. Now you said something interesting that you reached out to the his PhD students, which is working with him on the labs. How do you find those students?
I think those you can easily get on the professor's website. If you, they
Acha,
usually have
okay,
a section called as teacher or students or lab mates, where they list the professor and the
okay,
various
okay,
students who are working in the lab. So I reached out to their most senior most student who was in his fourth year of PhD. So naturally,
okay.
if I reach out to someone like that, and if I kind
And
of
when you
share
say
that
reach out,
I have an interest,
and when you say
I had
reach
an
out,
in person. I had an in
Acha,
person meeting with
okay,
him. So I first
got
wrote
it.
him an email, and he replied to it, and then I just set up a meeting with him,
Mm,
and then I expressed my interest and sharing. I shared my profile, and since I had done relevant work in IIT, he was happy to refer me to professor.
mm, mm. Got it. Okay,
So and I did let him know that I am looking for a funded position because I was not willing to spend any money, or I just wanted to have a funded because I was doing thesis.
right, right,
So
right.
naturally, I was very positive about that. And when you express something confidently, I think it does work out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now we are at the point you found out the PhD student. He is vouching for you. He helped you getting appointment set up with your professor. You have a chance to convince him to give you the like opportunity. What happened in that meeting? Kind of an
Yeah.
interview.
Sure. So it was kind of an informal interview. The
Right.
professor, he was an Indian and he was from IIT as well. So when I
Mm,
told him that I had relevant experience at IIT Bombay and IIT Indore, like those are like leading computer science institutes. So he was kind of interested to know more about what I worked on. And then I
mm,
shared about my project and I told him that, I've published papers on so and so topic and it resembles your research group and your area as well. So then he was happy to have me on board in the project. And then I just asked for funding as well. And then he was happy to fund me because ultimately it was like, a lot of things have to work in order to, get funding. Like the professor
yeah.
needs to have funding, he needs to
Yeah.
trust you, which I was able to do through the help of the PhD student. And I had like very relevant experience. So
Mm,
all that does matter when it comes to funding because this was a GRA position. It was a graduate research assistantship position. So
mm,
usually, like if you have never worked with a professor before, then it's very difficult to get a GRA in the first semester itself. Because what
right.
usually happens is you will have to work with the professor for a semester. He will gauge you. He will see whether you are right fit for the lab, and then he might fund you from the second semester.
Mm.
So yeah, it worked out very well at the end.
Nice. And when you say funding, what can you explain what includes in funding? Is it the funding
Yeah,
that they cover your master's fees, tuition fees, or is it tuition fees plus more money for living expenses? Like, how does funding work?
yeah. So this was a GRA position, which is usually given to PhDs and research students. So it covers your entire tuition expense, and on top of that, you are paid a decently good amount, which is a monthly stipend. So which you are paid for entire semester. So it's kind of like you're paid to do your masters because you don't have to pay any fees, and you're paid like a good stipend per month.
Okay, so that and what is the range? Give us the range if you can. Yeah.
Sure. I'll be happy to. So, like, usually it's somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500. In my case, I think in first semester it was 2,300 per month.
Wow.
So,
and
yeah,
so that 2,300 is separate, like separate
yeah,
from your
exactly.
master's fees getting
You-
covered.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then
So
obviously
that was a,
you had your rent, which we mentioned in the earlier that
yeah,
it was roughly like cost of living is roughly under $1,000. So you're probably saving
yes,
every single month about
yeah,
$1,000 plus.
yes.
So is it safe
So,
to say that you did your master's for $0 plus you have more money and obviously you have you had internship from Google and was it Capital One?
yeah, Capital One.
Nice. So excited. This is so awesome.
Yeah,
That
thanks,
is
man.
so cool. I don't want people to take your advice. Say, oh, it's easy and everybody will get it. It's very hard.
No. Yeah,
uh,
I can. It's not hard. It's difficult because it gets competitive. You're competing with very brilliant students who have
yeah,
done like equally good work. If you're at a good university, they are like equally deserving candidates.
right.
So yeah, so you need to do something to stand out from the crowd. And in
Mm.
my case, I would again say the my relevant experience and the person vouching for my ability helped to get funding in
Yeah,
first semester. After
yeah.
my first semester, I found out that I was not that interested in the project, so I kind of
Mm,
left that project, and then I applied. Like I was finding a new advisor. Basically, I switched my advisor, and
mm,
then because I was in the search of advisor, so in second semester I didn't get a GRA, so I was applying for a GTA position, which is a similar position, like in terms of funding. So in GTA as
mm,
well, we get our tuition fee waived off, and we get a similar stipend for per month for the entire duration of semester. So I
mm.
did a GTA for my second semester. So yeah, that's and even for that I had to like apply and reach out to people. So one thing which I did different for the GTA was that usually people just again people just email and expect to get a reply. So what I've learned here is that in-person communication always has a higher weightage compared to a simple email. Like if you just go and pay a visit to that person saying, I'm interested in your work, that would have a much higher weightage compared to if you just write him an email. Because when he sees an email, he doesn't know you. You are just someone sitting on the other end of the emails and contacting him. But when you
Mhm.
are reaching out to someone in person, you have that potential to build a bond, build a connection with
Yes,
the human.
yes. But
Hmm.
there are people like me who are introvert and shy. All the people might not believe that, but
Oh
uh,
my God.
yeah, I am an
I
introvert and
can't
shy
believe
person.
that. Dude, I can't believe that.
I know, but I am, and
Yeah,
I know there are many people like me. So when they go, they are probably nervous and they feel like I
I
don't know
know.
what I'm gonna say. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. So what did you talk about when you went for your in person appointment for the GTA position? Mm,
So whenever I go and whenever I'm talking to a new person, I won't immediately dive into the details. Suppose
mm,
I'm
mm,
coming to you and I'm asking you for funding. I won't immediately come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for funding. No, that doesn't make out. What I usually do is I try to find some common ground between me and you, which I can start the talk, so that I can start the conversation in a very light topic,
yeah,
which
yeah.
doesn't have to be work. So when I met this professor, I came to know he was from IIT. So I started talking about IITs, that I visited a lot of IITs and I know a lot of professors. And he apparently knew one professor with whom I had worked with. So that's how we had a light-hearted conversation initially before we started discussing the main things. So what this does,
Mm,
it creates a bond in the person's mind that okay, this person is interactable and he's friendly to approach with. So this it gives him some kind of comfortness to talk to you and to be more open with you. And this even applies for professors and for everyone.
mm, mm.
So I think that's one thing which I've seen a lot of students making mistake. They would directly jump into work, and that doesn't work out. It looks like you're just going there and you're talking because you want something from the other person.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
doesn't. Even if it's true, it doesn't. It shouldn't look that way.
I say this, that don't build transaction, build relationship.
Exactly.
Because you're,
Exactly.
yeah. So no, I 100% agree.
If I have to like summarize this fundings and all, a lot of it depends on how you interact with the person. Like your
Mm,
skills and expertise, it does matter. There were a lot of other students who were equally or maybe more qualified than me, even for the GTO position in chemistry. But it's more about whether you're able to win that person's mind and you're able
mm,
to communicate in a way which builds trust. If you can do
mm.
that, you can achieve everything.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah,
is
no.
very important.
Yeah, it's amazing and inspiring. I hope that students who are watching, that don't stop at if you don't get it at computer science department. And that's
Exactly.
why I have said it in my past videos that go to every single department, because every single
Yeah,
department needs
it
student
has.
job. There are
Yes.
student jobs available, and don't stop at just your department and don't stay in the
Exactly.
bubble. Get out of the comfort zone. So,
And yeah, learn to be different from the crowd. Everybody's
mm,
cold emailing. Get a step ahead. Try to build in-person bonds. Go, even if you don't have an appointment, just go walk in and try to meet the person. Who
mm,
knows? You might just stumble upon a very great opportunity, which you might have
yeah,
not even expected.
right.
So yeah, in this world of, as the world is getting more digital, people do crave in-person interactions. So try to
Yeah.
do that and stand out from the crowd, and it does help.
Nice. This was so awesome and very insightful. Thank you for sharing so much in detail with us. But I know there's a lot more we need to deep dive, but I'll bring you back again in the next video. But and until our next one.
Keep smiling and keep hustling.